All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let's dive right into it. I want to be respectful of your time. So, where are we? Who, what, and how UNLV, aligning recruitment with the UNLV experience. Let's jump right into it. So, who am I? Some of you I have talked to before, others I have not, so welcome. I am Monesia Hobbs, Assistant Director for Employer Engagement. I am originally from Long Beach, California. I have been in Vegas here since about 2021 officially. I am a lifelong learner, so a bachelor's in PR, master's in communication management, and an MBA. I also have certifications in entertainment PR and AI for executives, and I'll probably go do something else at some point. We'll see. Um, I have been working for nearly 30 years in event planning and 10 years of experience in hospitality here at UNLV. I've been here almost 4 years and have been in this current position as your employer engagement person since January. And a little fun fact, I have traveled to over 20 countries and I'm always looking for my next adventure. So taking any suggestions. All right, so what are we talking about here? Let's dig right into it. First, we're going to discuss all about UNLV, who we are. I want to break down to you exactly what our institution looks like. And then we're going to talk about what the data says about our students. Then we're going to figure out how to meet the UNLV community where they are. We'll run through that campus engagement life cycle, and then provide some contact information, make a few announcements, and then if you have any questions, please feel free to shout them out. You also don't have to wait until the end of the presentation to ask questions. Please feel free to just jump right in or drop them in the chat. All right, let's get into it. All about UNLV. So diversity is our DNA. We maintain the top spot as one of the most ethnically diverse schools in the nation. I think we sit around number 2 or 3 in the nation. The majority of our students are the first in their family to go to college, and they are working, many of them full time. And they're commuter students, which means they don't really hang out on campus. They're not living on campus. Well, they'll come for class typically, and then they have to head out. So that's just something to keep in mind. We are a Carnegie Research One University, which means we do a ton of research here. Being that our first graduating class was in 1957, we are constantly paying attention to how the landscape is changing here in the city. And we're doing a lot of that research to kind of figure out what this growth looks like, what our new industries look like, and what our workforce looks like. Um, with 88 of our students locally grown, that makes our university come straight from our backyard. We are a federally designated HSI in Anapeasy. What does that mean? An HSI is a Hispanic serving institution, and an Anapeasy is an Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander serving institution. Native American, Pacific Islander meaning Hawaiian. So we're an Asian American and Hawaiian serving institution, meaning we have large percentages of both of these groups on campus, making us a minority serving institution in the eyes of the federal government. We have over 70 different degree programs. Some of them are top ranked. We're known mostly for our hospitality school, which stays in the top 3, honestly, in the country and the world. And our enrollment increases annually. So in the fall, we had about 33,000 students that were enrolled here. Not all of them are in person. Many of them do attend remotely. But a lot of our students do want to stay close to home in Las Vegas. That can be changed a little bit. We also do have a very robust non-traditional population, where almost 18% of our undergraduate students fall over the age of 25. Meaning these are people who have gone back to school, they are finishing school, they want to upskill, they want to pivot careers, and they find that getting a better education or more of an education is the way to go. So you want to keep this in mind when you have a candidate who may seem a little bit older. I've had some students who have come to me a little bit frustrated because they have a hard time finding a position and they feel like it's because they are seasoned. But these are the people that are going to bring a different dynamic to your office, to your organization, because they do know a little bit more and they're always willing to learn. We also have our Rebel Rebound program, which is our justice impacted students. These are students who have either been previously incarcerated or they have family members who have been previously incarcerated. We do not keep statistics on this group because we like to maintain their anonymity and just be a warm hug to kind of be able to wrap our arms around them and give them support that they need. We also do have a very large veterans population as well, being that we are here near the Air Force Base and we are just very veteran friendly. And so you will see a lot of representation from our veterans as well. All right. So what does the data say about our students? Let's talk about an employer health check. Because before we can even get into talking about how you're going to recruit our students, we need to make sure that your organization is ready. Because when it comes to what those new graduates are considering, these are the things that they have ranked as important. When you're thinking about your organization, how do you stack up against it? They're looking for that healthy workplace and culture. They want friendly coworkers and some sort of balance. Now, we all know you have to start somewhere and really work towards that balance, but you want to be able to offer some sort of balance or even consideration of it, kind of meet them where they are. Reputation management. How are you faring in the public eye? Do you address situations early and quickly? Do you communicate to your staff and then to your public? What does your internal and external communications look like? Are you thinking about the health of your reputation? Also, they're not looking necessarily for fully remote positions, but they are looking for some flexibility in schedule. So this could be a hybrid. This could be, varying locations or even some staggered schedule. There's also opportunity for growth. They want to know that they might get promoted, that you may invest in their professional development, that they, are able to do some upskilling. Shameless plug here, if you are looking for a way to upskill your staff or create some professional development, we do have our lifelong learning department here who can tailor some trainings for you. And we also do have micro credentials here that we offer to anybody in the public. And then finally, pay and benefits transparency. We are no longer in the ages where you can hold the pay until someone has gotten through 3 or 4 interviews. It's just a waste of everyone's time if it's not what they're looking for. So be transparent. Like, don't hide what you're trying to pay and don't lie about it. Make sure that you're actually sharing the truth. Um, and I just want to add one note about this. When you're thinking about what your hiring process looks like, I just read a couple of articles this morning from on LinkedIn discussing that hiring process. Is it long and complicated? Does it take many days? Like, do you ask for a resume and have them fill out an application? Are they doing a skills assessment? Are there 4 or 5 interviews to go through? And then you guys go and hire someone internally? You are the gatekeepers, and many of these applicants are pretty new to this process. So any barriers to entry that we can look at and maybe refresh might be something to consider. We think about revolutions and what used to happen. A lot of things have changed just from what's happened on college campus. This is where revolutions take place, so while we look at the generations under us is like, oh my gosh, they're like, don't want to do anything. Well, those would be the reasons why we had the 5-day work week or why we have an 8-hour work day, because someone coming up said, hold on, we don't have to work like this. So, we want to pay attention to that. Next, when you are working on your info session prep, these are some of the things that the new workforce is thinking about and they're considering when they want to choose who they're committing to. So when you think about your own organization or how you present in an info session, you want to consider some of these things. Recruiter disposition. They want to see the recruiter is warm and friendly, that they're welcoming. They look at a recruiter as that representation of the organization. So if the recruiter comes off warm, then they're more likely to think that, the organization is generally warm and welcoming. They also want to know that the recruiter has a genuine interest in the students' stories. That they're not just trying to pump information out, that they actually want to really build relationships with our student base. Next, is your office Gen Z ready? The U.S. Department of Labor says that by 2030, 30% of your workforce is going to be people who were born after 1996. And we already know that we have almost at least 5 generations in an office at any given time at this point. So what does that look like? Are the new graduates feeling welcomed when they come in? Do you have opportunities to kind of train them on what that office culture is? Or are you expecting them to come in already knowing it? Because that's kind of cause a bit of a disconnect in how you work them into your office culture. There's also an AI disconnect. So where employers are really embracing AI and kind of expecting new grads to really wrap their arms around it, there is a general distrust among Gen Z for AI. And so you'll find this, in certain majors and certain students, they're really not using it. They feel like they can think for themselves and they don't like the impact on the environment. Now, of course, this does differ for those business students and some of those engineering students who are early adopters of different technologies. But for the most part, a lot of Gen Z is not as welcoming to AI as maybe some of us employers think that they should be or think that they're going to be. Also, an organization, they want to know about the organization's health. They're seeking stability. They have been told that they're getting this degree because it's going to give them a job. Well, they don't want to get to a job and find out that the next year it's going bankrupt or, that people are always leaving. So be able to share about the company's financial health, long-term plans, and even some of those turnover rates. Because if you are afraid to share your turnover rate, then it's maybe something you want to look at within the organization. And then finally, cost of living. You want to be able to tell somebody what it's really going to be like, truthfully, to live in your area, whether that's Vegas or somewhere else in the country. What is the cost of rent? How much does it cost to buy a home? Is that really realistic for most of the people there? Do you feel like the salaries are keeping up with the housing costs? How much does it cost for gas? Is your city walkable? These are things that are going to help someone really determine if they want to move away from their home and start a new life somewhere. And so you can really hold the key to someone making that big leap. Right. So how do we interact with our students now that we know what they're thinking about? What are the reasons that a student will attend an info session? I get a lot of questions like I want to do an info session. What do I do? Where do I do it? What's the best time? How does it work? So these are just some notes that, we have taken and that we have noticed. They want to know that the company is considered a good place to work. So kind of going back to those last couple of slides, they're looking at, is this organization a place that I want to be at? And then is there a consistent presence on campus? I see a couple of our employer partners on here that we have a great relationship with. They're always here. They are very present, even connected with different departments on campus, and they're reaching out. They want to make that effort with our students. And students will notice that. They'll notice when you show up. Even if they don't interact with you while you're here, they'll remember that you came. And then, of course, food always helps. These are students, at the end of the day. And so you don't always have to have it, but, as an introduction, and it doesn't have to be a full meal as well. It can be some small bites. It could be snacks. It could be, water and beverages. but they want to, they like to come in, get in on the goodies. And then they would like some real benefits. They would like to know maybe that there's a guaranteed interview at the time. Maybe it's, pop-up interviews or some sort of conversation that they can have that's going to really help with their application, or even some tips and tricks. Um, and maybe not a promise of a referral, but at least some sort of advocacy and a tip, because they kind of met you halfway, that maybe they can, get something out of it. Most value communication, announcements in class. We're working more with our professors to, get our employers partnered with the departments that make sense, so that they can make those announcements, that you guys can come in to speak to their classes, and that, you can share about these different organizations. Also, direct emails from the employers. We tend to send out a student newsletter twice a month. And so it's not uncommon for us to highlight a job, to highlight an event, to highlight when you're coming to campus, to highlight if you're going to, be somewhere in the city. So please, if you have something that you'd like us to share with the students, please feel free to send that to me. And then direct emails from former students or former interns. So if you have someone who has worked with you that was with UNLV, allow them to reach out to their network and share about their experiences. I share about our experience, some of the experiences that you guys have with our hires in our employer newsletter. And that's just to give you guys some feedback and some context as far as how to the types of students that we're hiring and the type of talent that we are sending out. And if you see the little note here, 90% of the students say company history is not a priority. So if we're talking about like the longevity of the company, outside of like making sure that you're not going to close your doors next year, they really are less concerned about like how long you've been in business, or how large the organization is. Moving on to methods. Number one recruiting venue, career fairs. I know there's some, I've heard some different things about, the ROI that the employers have received, but for the very most part, students report that it's a good use of their time. They enjoy being able to talk with you. They enjoy that in-person interfacing, that interaction, being able to ask those questions in real time. And so, they really enjoy your presentations. So if you're coming to class, or if you're doing an info session or even a virtual session, they really just want to hear like the real life about it. Of course, they hear in the classroom what they need to know to get into these jobs, but how is it really working there? So I even enjoy seeing how many, like sometimes we'll see more than one recruiter show up for an event, whether it's career fair or an info session, to get those different perspectives. So of course, what do they want to gain? They want to learn what they're going to actually do in those positions. So, without the fluff, what's actually the real job? What's the real, but beyond the job description, like breaking down the jargon, what does it actually mean to take this job? What is it actually doing? And then that ability to network. So, a way to contact you or stay in contact, or, connect with the company on social media, whatever the case is, they're looking for those ways to network informally. And I get a lot of questions about how to network correctly, how to talk to employers, what things to ask, how long is too long to talk, what are the right questions, how do I introduce myself? So we spend a lot of time trying to help them figure out the best ways to network, because they're still young. I remember how I was when I was that age. Like, it was a scary word, bad word, networking, bad. But now, as I've overcome a lot of that, and now I even teach that workshop to our students for introverts, so networking for introverts, just to give them that step-by-step process. So the more that you can make them feel comfortable, and at ease is also helpful in them developing that skill. And then, insight on the application process. So, whenever you um, can say, okay, this is how our process works. This is how long it normally takes to get hired, or this is how we review our resumes, whether you use an AI tool or not to review resumes, some of the things that you're looking for. Those are the type of things that they are looking to hear about. Now, going beyond the fair, um, sometimes you get students who don't show up and you're like, okay, well, I did all this stuff and no one came. Why might that be? It could be that it conflicts with their class schedule, with their personal plans. And again, this is a commuter campus. So if they leave campus, they typically do not come back. So be being mindful about what times that you're doing things, when you're coming, the days of the week, all of that plays into when they're going to show up. And sometimes it's kind of a trial and error game. You try different times, different days, just to see what's really going to work for your specific types of students. Because they all, across the different degree programs, they're all different personalities. So if you kind of understand the students in your programs that you're looking for, the majors that you're looking for, it can help with how you get them into the room. We also have ways to reach them beyond the fair as far as our clubs and organizations. We have over 500 student clubs on campus. We have a website that I am going to drop into the chat. And this is a site that shows all of our student organizations and their contacts that are currently registered on campus. And this is helpful just for a kind of a first step to see what clubs are actually here. There's a club for so many different things. Beyond that, if you're looking to connect with a club or organization, like I said, their contact information is usually on those pages as well for their presidents and their officers. Again, going into the classroom, so connecting with those faculty, the deans of the departments, or even some of those internal career services offices. We are a hybrid campus, meaning we have our centralized career service where I work, and then we have decentralized offices in hospitality, engineering, business, and law school. So there are often times when you may come to me as the first point of contact, and I'm going to refer you to those specific departments to talk to those specific offices, and then they can get you connected to the classroom. And then workshops. Beyond doing an info session, if you can come and teach on something, even if it's virtual, like something that's specific to your field, and then at the end, talk about some of the positions you have with the organization itself, I've found those to also be successful because they want to hear those insights. They want to understand how to best go about their work. And then tabling. So this is, really low stakes, low lift. We can set up a table for you on Academic Mall or on Free Speech, which is a high traffic areas on campus. And you can bring swag, set things up, and have an opportunity to talk to students. This is very time sensitive, though, as far as you want to make sure that there are actually students on campus and that traffic is flowing. I've had, a couple of employers that have wanted to come during the summer, and it's really tough because the students who are even in summer school are typically not in person. So that the campus is pretty dead during the summer. And then the most preferred interactions, they love those intimate, rooms where you may have panels or you bring people who are working in those positions. They love to be able to hear about people's experiences. So anytime that you can create any kind of opportunity for them to ask questions or interact and network with people who are doing the jobs they want to do, those are typically are where we see a lot of engagement. And then kind of going going on again about the content, those types of formats. Ask me anything format. Share, share, share. Share about your experience. I did a mini lightning talk a couple of months ago about our failures, finding success through our failures. Students don't hear enough about our failures. They hear about successes, they hear about how how we made it, but they don't hear about the times how many doors closed on us. They don't hear about how we had to pivot, that it was okay that even we changed majors, that we changed majors 2 or 3 times. They don't get to hear about some of those stories. And so they start to feel like they're by themselves because something didn't work out right. And so I'm always pushing to be able to share your experience and share those moments that weren't so nice, share those moments, and so that we normalize that is the journey. The journey is not linear. It pivots this way, that way, and bounces around. So the more that they can hear about that, I think it kind of puts them at ease about that hiring process. And then specific about the hiring process, we talked about that a little bit. Um, Recruiter access, having those conversations about the interviews, letting them, talking to them about what it looks like, having that kind of, even like a document that's like top 10 or top 5 interview questions that you'll probably get asked anywhere. Having things like that just sets them up for success, is really what helps them to feel confident and move forward in their job search. And then, yeah, connection opportunities. So just events, even events in your office. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but ways to just bring the students around and then even partner with us on certain things because we're doing things throughout the year that we'll talk about as well. And so again, students really just care about how they're treated. They want to know that the person who represents the organization is a reflection of the company culture and they want a great culture. This is kind of where we are at this point. All right. I've done enough talking for a moment. It is time for an activity. So I have, looks like about 28 of you in here. What I am going to do is break you out into rooms of about 5. And what I would like you to do is share either a success that you've had in recruiting, an idea that you may have had that has worked, or even a challenge that you had to overcome. I want, we're here to gain knowledge, but not just from me. I want you to hear from your peers as well. So we're going to take about 5 to 8 minutes just to chat through, some of the things that you guys have tried and done that have worked, and some things where maybe you would like a little bit of help. So I'm going to break you out now. Let's do 5 rooms. And we're going to assign automatically. And the rooms are now open. All right. Welcome back, everyone. Did you find that helpful at all? Anybody want to share a brief aha moment? You can come off mute. Brave soul.
Yeah, I guess I can go ahead and share briefly. I think it was helpful to hear from other employers on the.
Thank you, Josh. I mean, y'all like supposed to talk for a living. I don't know.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I was saying it was nice to hear from other employers, not only what they do, but the industries that they work with and type of students they target, as well as how they get in front of students, what works, what doesn't work, and kind of just see, there always different ways to skin a cat or different ways to make a fruit salad. So that was cool. Thank you, Jan and Gary for sharing.
Thank you. Anyone else have any aha moments or quick thoughts before we move forward?
I'll go. I said one of the things we talked about in our group that I thought was really interesting is we had some from you that work at UNLV and then some that don't. So seeing how we can all like work together, like, hey, on-campus jobs, this is how it works, and then training the on-campus student workers of these are potential more like I don't know how to word it,
Yeah.
future careers outside of you of a student worker position.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, Lindsay. I'll touch on that a little bit later in the presentation, but that is actually a really big initiative that is happening on campus titled called Work Plus. And it's essentially that, like, how do we bridge that gap between what you're doing here as a student worker and preparing you to go to that full-time position? So we are really focusing on student employment as a high impact practice as well. So I thank you for sharing that. We'll touch on that a little bit more a little bit later. All right. Thank you all for participating and indulging me. We're going to move forward a bit into our campus engagement life cycle. Let's go ahead and talk about our academic calendar. And I'm going to post a link in the chat. And this link is a link to all of our calendars through 2031. So every academic calendar year, what? Every academic calendar year all the way through 2031. Just for you to be able to see what our kind of cycle looks like. So as we see here, our semester is 16 weeks. And we do recommend not scheduling student interactions on the first week, the 15th week, and the 16th week. What are those weeks? First week is when the semester starts. It's crazy. Students are all over the place. They're trying to get their classes straight. It's just quite a busy time. Week 15 is when instruction ends. We call that study week. So most of the time, students are either taking finals or they're preparing to take finals. So this semester, that week, it lands from November 30th to December 5th. And then week 16 is finals week, which is December 7th through 12th this year. So we just recommend not doing things during those weeks. Students are just a little bit overwhelmed unless you're going to do something fun. So when I used to work in Trio, what we would do that week 15 was like an event called Study Breakers. And it was in a whole week of programming that was just meant to de-stress and decompress. So we would do knitting classes, we would do karaoke, we would do arts and crafts like for holidays. We would do line dancing. So we would just do something a little more de-stressing to give them a break from, from all the study, the stress of finals. So you can come and do something like that, but anything that's too heavy, will not get a whole lot of engagement. And then as you see, we also have a number of student-centered events, and the school observes pretty much every holiday. So that can also impact the way the students are on campus. For the fall, that means Labor Day, Nevada Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, and Family Day. We're usually already out for winter break after that week 16. And then we also have MSI week in September, career fair in September, homecoming in October, and then winter commencement. We are a school that has commencements every semester. And so even though that's a crazy lift, we have a winter commencement and a spring commencement every year. Homecoming this year is October, the first week of October. So I believe it's October 7th. So that'll be homecoming week. Lots of things that happen that week. We have a parade. We have different events. We have a golf cart festival. Lots of things happen homecoming week. It's pretty fun, but pretty busy. And in the spring, you'll see MLK, President's Day, spring break. And then we do things for Black History Month, the career fair again, Women's History, AAPI month, and then the spring commencement. All right. So what does it look like for your recruiting schedule? September, October, November, as you see, those are like key months. We try to hold our career fair right in that end of September, beginning of October time. It's the time for professional development. A lot of networking happens. We find that a lot of employers are recruiting for the spring and summer internships in the fall. So they're starting that life cycle in the fall. They also take that time to seek their full-time hires for our December graduates. So keeping in mind, you don't have to look for new graduates only in the spring. We have them coming in December as well, across all degrees. Of course, it is a smaller commencement, but it's still a robust commencement nevertheless. We also have a good number of alumni that are still very active in our handshake account, that come to our career fairs, that are still very involved. Our attendance of alumni is actually about 15% of our career fair. So I'll be sending out some messaging soon that even for career fair, you don't just have to bring your entry level and internship positions. Sometimes you can bring those mid-management and some of those positions that are require a little more experience, because we do have a good number of alumni. 15. 15. So usually our career fair attendance is anywhere between 1,200 and 2,000 students and alumni, and about 15 of those are alumni. And then we have our Thriving Authentically monthly career panel. I do have a sign-up sheet for this. Thriving Authentically is a series of identity-based career panels that essentially shows students that, how do I maintain my identity and maintain my professionalism in my workplace? So how do I not lose myself? It's about representation. It's about seeing people that look like them working in the careers that they're trying to work in and figuring out how to navigate those spaces. We have one pretty much every month, because every month we celebrate a different identity. We'll talk about that calendar shortly, but just keeping in mind that's also something that our employer partners can be involved in as either a panelist or as coming to table or network. August, going back to those student roles, part-time jobs. We have our student employment fair on August 21st. And I'll talk about it a little more in a bit, but I do have openings for a number of employers who do offer part-time, student-friendly, flexible roles in addition to their full-time roles. So those employers who may be interested in joining that particular fair can also let me know, send me a message, but we'll chat a little bit more later in this session. September, October, engage with students. and develop your brand on campus. So this could be employer orientations, campus tours. I do have a campus tour coming up on August 3rd. And it starts at 9:30. It is a presentation about the school, and it is also a tour from me. So I'm actually taking you around campus, just giving you some of the highlight touch points. And then you do have opportunities for tabling. Like I said, it can either be in academic mall or in free speech, or if you'd like to be in like a high traffic area like the student union, they do charge a fee, but you do get to be set up for 4 hours. I have had employers that will set up in the student union just to touch those students there. I believe the fee is $165. I do not control it. It's from our student union event services side. But it does give you that exposure in the high traffic areas. Other areas for tabling are typically complimentary. And then November, December, you can begin your application process, interview process. We do try to assist with space for interviews as well. So if you are looking to do interviews on campus, we do try to assist with that, especially following career fair. And then you can send those offers and rejection letters in December. So that's kind of how that fall semester looks like. I mean, you can duplicate it for the spring as well, just to give you an idea. And so what do we have coming up? Student Employment Fair, like I said, is August 21st. I do have a number of spots that I can invite off-campus employers to who offer those flexible schedules for students. We have our best mixer, which is the Business Engineering Science and Technology mixer. This is an add-on to the main fair. So if you are already coming to the main fair, then you can also come to the Business Engineering Science and Technology mixer. There is also the College of Hospitality Career Mixer in Hospitality Hall. Of course, our career fair is that Wednesday. On the second floor, we are back in the student union. So if you had been there last year, we are not in Thomas and Mack. We are in the student union this year, as we had been a few years back. We are taking over the entire second floor and Pida Plaza, most of the student union. Following the career fair, we also have our Veterans Career Mixer. So I will be sending out a notification to those of you who have registered. If you'd like to add on the Veterans Career Mixer, it is a complimentary add-on if you'd like to participate and get in the room with veterans. We are partnering with our Veterans Department here on campus to put that together. And then on Thursday, if you are a nonprofit, we have our nonprofit career fair as well. So that's just what's going on as far as fairs and mixers for the fall. I like to call it our career fair week because there is tons of programming there. And then as on the other column here is our dates for Thriving Authentically and which identities will be served in those particular dates. So September is Latinx, October is LGBTQIA+. November is our first generation international and Native American history. And so we squeeze a lot of things in that month. And then for spring, it's Black history, women's history, Second Chance, which is our Justice Impacted, Middle Eastern, and AAPI. And they will all take place in TAM Alumni Center from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then additional opportunities. So my next session that I'll be doing a training for, education series is how to prepare for the fair. So if you're just looking for some best tips on, how to make sure that you're ready for our student population, you'll see the link for that session a little bit later. And then internship workshops. So if you are unsure of how to set up an internship, I will be presenting on that. I think it's going to be a half-day workshop in the spring. We are still working out the date for that, but you will see notification for it. Site visits. I am happy to come visit your site if you are local. or if you'd like to do a tour for our students, we can also set that up as well. So if you would like for people to come and see your space, we are happy to set that up for you. And then virtual events. Many of you may know that on Handshake, you can actually set up your own virtual events. You actually do not need to ask us first or run it by us. You can set that up. We approve it on our side, and then it can be advertised to whichever students that you'd like to come. That's a great place to kind of test out different times and topics to see where you get the best interaction. And then finally, sponsorships. So we have annual sponsorships where employers get that year-round visibility as a partner with our organization. And it shows an investment in our student population. There's also different levels of media takeover that come with the different levels of packages that we kind of spread across all of our platforms. And then career fair specific sponsorships. There are 2 levels there that also include media takeover, and so you get to present during the career fair too. We'll be doing some sessions during the career fair. So if you're interested in any of those, please let me know. And then Handshake, of course, all of you are on Handshake. We just wanted to provide some best practices when you are setting up events or postings so that you understand how to use the system. If you have if it's an internship, make sure that the start and end dates are there. If it's a job, of course, just kind of a general start date. Specific job duties and responsibilities, kind of in layman's terms. You are maybe the expert in your field, but people who are just entering those fields may not know exactly what all the language is. So as plain English as possible. Majors that you're interested in. We talked about the pay rate, being transparent there. Deadline to apply, contact information, and then how to apply. So you can do the application within Handshake, or you can have them go to an outside link. Okay. I'll definitely be sending information out about how to do an internship. As soon as we get those details set up, we'll be sending that information out. And then the details here for the career fair, Wednesday, September 30th, 2026. I have a number of you already registered, which is super exciting. And then again, this is the QR code if you'd like to sign up for the next series, which is the how to prepare for the fair. I'll give you guys just a second if you want to scan that. But of course, I will send an email out as well. So if you miss the QR code here, you'll get another message from me. And then another announcement for those who may not know, we're moving. So our office is moving back to campus. Right now, it is currently across campus on Maryland. So if you know where Crumble Cookies are, or if you know where Bojangles is on the Maryland side, we are in the building next door to it. We are moving back to campus for a number of reasons. One of them being that, yup. One of them being that, a lot of our staff here are student facing. So where I may be assisting with our employers and it's beneficial for me to be here, most of our staff is student facing. And so it's more beneficial for them to be on campus. And then we'll also all be in the same place. So because they're student facing a lot of the time, they are on campus in a second office, an additional office. And so this will give us an opportunity to all be back in the same building. We'll be right off of Harmon, right behind the library. So if you've been on campus, it's that straight shot directly to that, I guess you could call the heart of campus, like the dead end there on Harmon. So we will be having an open house on August 27th. If you are local or like to come by and just, bless the place with your presence. We will have interview rooms in that office, so it's a good time to come and just check out the space and see what we have set up for our employers as well. So that invitation will come out. This is all of our contact information about how to keep in touch. Um, and I believe that's all I have for you. Do we have any questions? You can drop them in the chat or come off mute. Thanks, Camille. And while you guys are thinking of your questions, I'll also just post this last slide. If you would like to if you want to chat further, that is the QR code to my scheduling link. Of course, it's also in my email signature. So you're always welcome to schedule a time at any time to chat some more, and we can have a little more of an individual conversation. And if you don't have questions, that is all I have for you. So if you do have them and you don't want to say it around everybody, you can stick around. Other than that, I will chat with you all soon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Monisha, quick question. What's the process to attend the 821 fair?
Yeah, I just messaged you. I will send you is a
Oh,
link
okay,
to
okay,
get
okay.
there. It's on
Thank you.
it's on Handshake too though. But
Okay, and
I'll send you a link to register.
is it the same for the thriving events as well?
The Thriving Events is a different link. I'll send that to you too.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
You're
You're the best.
welcome. Of course.
Have a good day, okay?
You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.